If you feel like living in Orange County is completely unaffordable, I've got a video for you, and I'm going to walk through the more affordable price segment in Orange County and what you can get. So in this video, we're going to be talking about $800,000 and below. And my perspective here is as a real estate professional that has helped hundreds of people move all over Southern California, but specifically in Orange County and under this price point. Now, there's a big segment between the low side of this and the higher side at 800. So I'm gonna kind of walk through some things that might not be so obvious that a lot of our clients we actually talk to, we do a discovery call, they actually learn a little bit more, which can affect their budget either up or down. So I wanna give you some more context so you can make your home search a little bit easier. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Christian Stubbs. I'm a team leader and owner of Onyx Homes. We're a real estate sales team that has helped over 770 people move all over Southern California just since 2020. Now, I make these videos and this channel all about Orange County just so that we can help you make your next move a little bit easier so you can make better decisions. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen here and I'm gonna dive into our website. Now, if you're wondering why my logo is messed up here, we are under construction on this website, but you can go to onyxhomes.com and you can check this out, and we're gonna have it all refreshed here very soon. But I have just the county of Orange pulled up. So all of these little guys popping up here, these are prices all over the place. So one thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna narrow this down to just residential. And the other thing that I do is over here on filters, I'm gonna go other property attributes. And because we're looking at a lower price segment, here's one thing a lot of people miss. Is I'm gonna scroll down here to senior communities and I'm gonna click no, because we get a lot of people who are like, oh, that's in a 65 plus community and there's a $5,000 a month HOA, right? So like it gets rid of stuff like that. So let's filter that out. And also if you wanna save this search, you can always do that. All you do is come in here and create a profile, and that allows you to save your search and you can get off-market opportunities there. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, first of all, just point out that there's 1,148 properties under $800,000. And this is something that most people do not really think about. They think about, oh, there's nothing affordable in Orange County. It's like, well, there certainly is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do price descending. Let's look at the $800,000 range. So if you're saying like, okay, I don't wanna spend $1 million, but I don't wanna be at the bottom of the price segment for Orange County, what's available? And it's like, wow. There's single family residences here, right? The first two that are popping up, one's pending, one's got an open house, but these are small single family. This is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 875 square feet, which is not obviously huge by any stretch of the imagination, but you can get into a single family home, right? And this is like, you can see it's a good shape from the outside. The yard looks great. You get the little picket fence. There's a little shed or an ADU or whatever that might be in the backyard. Right, we just sold a house in Anaheim that was similar to this for $900,000. So most people do not think you're going to be able to get into a single family house for under $800,000, and you are. Is it going to be in the dream neighborhood that you desire to be in? Maybe not, but it's probably not going to be your last property. This is the number one thing I see people mess up in this price point, is they feel like they have to buy their forever house first or even second, whereas most people use houses like stepping stones. So this is at the high end of the price point. If we go to the low end of the price point, right? So from basically any residential, so this takes out the senior like 55 plus neighborhoods, and this is taking out any like manufactured homes, because there's certainly more affordable ones below these price points. But you can get into, so this is a 1-bed, 1-bath for $335. Another one in Santa Ana, this is 2 beds, 2 baths for $340. Right, so these are very affordable price points. I'll kind of scroll through and you can see where these are at, right? So if I go from a maximum of even $500,000, what I want to show you is the map as to how many of those are available. There's 228 of these available. Now, I will say a lot of these are going to have like land lease options, especially below the 300,000 point, really below the 350 range. You're gonna see a lot of like land leases. So let me talk about that first. Land leases, if you're looking at a property, for example, like a manufactured home, will generally have a land lease. So outside of manufactured home, you like them or you don't. But for the sake of what I'm trying to show you here, is I wanna show you what it is gonna cost on the land lease. So this right here, now what is a land lease? And then what does it cost? So land lease is exactly what it sounds like. Is you own, on a manufactured home, you own the actual land, but there's also condos or townhomes that can have this same thing as well too. So here's the big concern, is your property value will be cheaper, meaning it'll be more affordable. And the reason for that is you do not actually own the land that's there. So think of a manufactured home park, right? Let's take this one for example. Is this whole park is owned by somebody, the HOA, whatever it might be, but you are leasing your space, and your space rent here is $1,575 paid monthly. So when this land leases up, they're typically, when they built this manufactured home park, they probably signed a 50 to 100 year lease or something like that. But when that expires, they don't have to renew it. They could say, you know what, whoever owns this land could say, you know what, instead of collecting this rent from all of these units, I just want to tear this down and build apartment buildings, or I want to tear this down and build something else. And they can do that. That's the big downside for being on leased land. Now, the upside is the home itself is going to be more affordable. Now, manufactured homes are going to be generally more affordable as well too. But when you're looking at just the low price point, $145,000, you want to also factor in the land lease amount. So for example, on a $145,000 price point, at just this rate that's thrown in here, your principal and interest only is only $750, and that might sound super affordable. But then you figure out the land lease is more than double your actual principal and interest payment. Then it throws it off and be like, whoa, wait a second, that doesn't make sense at all, right? So that's one thing you want to factor in with these lower prices. It's not just the price of the property. On these more affordable price segment that we're talking about, it actually factors in way more than that, right? So let's scroll up a little bit. Let's get into like the 400-ish range. So what I want to show, because this is a really popular price segment, is this kind of right around 400. So here's a property. This is in Lake Forest, and this is $400,000, 2 bed, 1 bath. So this would be a very, very good starter home. Let's look at pictures real quick to get an idea. This unit has a pool. This is a convenient location. It's pretty much in original condition, but certainly livable. You wouldn't have to do anything moving in here. And we're at $399 a month. Now on townhome condos, you're gonna wanna be aware of that HOA, right? How much is that gonna be? $400 would be on the cheap side. $500 is kind of average standard nowadays. $600 starts to get expensive is kind of how I look at that. Now this is not on lease land, but you do have that association fee. And if you scroll down here to the mortgage calculator, most of our home buyers do not put 20% down, not even close actually. Our average is actually closer to like 7 or 8% because we have a ton of clients that choose a 5% down option. Now, does that add mortgage insurance? Does that add other fees? Yes. However, when I purchased my first property, I was planning on putting about 10% down. And what I realized was, check this number here, 2321. If I put this down to 5%, the payment only goes up by $150, but 5% of $400,000 is what? $20,000. So I chose to keep and basically put that extra cash keep it in my pocket and have a slightly higher payment, right? Now this is all subject to loan approval. So if you want to talk to a lender, you can always check out over here and you can click on talk to a lender and schedule a consultation with them to figure out exactly what it would be, right? Because this is just principal and interest. You also have taxes, insurances, and all kinds of other stuff. Now, one thing that I hear a lot of people who are putting less than 20% down, this is probably one of the biggest, I don't want to call it a mistake because there's not necessarily right or wrong. I feel like it's a lot of people make a mistake because they assume. So one thing that we hear a lot is if somebody's putting less than 20% down, they feel, we just talked to a customer yesterday that was going through this, they felt like they had to have 20% down because they didn't want to throw away money on mortgage insurance. Now, this is the ironic part coming from my perspective, is that if we're worried about throwing money away on private mortgage insurance, the reality is we're probably renting. So we're throwing all of the money away. And the idea of throwing away $200, $300, maybe $400 max on mortgage insurance, but we have no problem throwing that money away on rent, that's the part that I think a lot of people get strung up on. So if we're looking at a $400,000 condo, now the average that homes appreciate in Orange County is somewhere between 3 and 5%. It generally is more on the 5% side, but let's be really conservative and say it is only 3%. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up a calculator here. So if we're talking $400,000 and it increases by 3% on the first year, so let's talk about 0.03. So this is going to be a 3% increase is $12,000. This is the very, very, very few people actually look at this when they're looking at any of the price points. So just that 3% increase for the first year. 3% is a conservative average. Now some years it goes up, some years it goes down, but overall, that's a very conservative average. If we take that $12,000 increase, right? Because we started at 400,000 and now we're at 412. If we take $12,000 divided by 12 months in a year, that's $1,000 a month in equity appreciation. So we see clients all the time who are so worried about throwing away that extra $300 or $400, $500 a month on private mortgage insurance, and they feel like they have to save up 20% down. Well, let's say this. Let's say you have 5% now, and it's going to take you 4 more years to save up an extra 15% to have 20% down. Well, what happens in those 5 years? Here's the reality. $400,000 in year 1. Is that 400 or 4 million? 400. There we go. So in year 1, it's $400,000, and then point plus times 1.03. So this is a 3% increase in year 1. So we're $12,000 there. But what happens again? On average, prices are going to go up 3% again, which would mean times 1.03. So now we're at $24,000 times 1.03. So that's now we're at 3 years. We're at $37,000 times 1.03. This is the 4th year. We're at $50,000 times 1.03. And now we're at we're at 63, almost $64,000 increase in price to save an extra, whatever the 15% would be, right? 15% of this, I'm not going to do public math, but you can get my idea, is we lost out on equity of $63,000, almost $64,000 by waiting 5 years to save money on down payment because we did not want to pay mortgage insurance. So that $300 a month, let's say it was, which is about roughly the amount, times 5 years is 48, no, times 50 to 60, what is it? 48, 60 months. So we would spend $18,000 in mortgage insurance, but we lost out on that potential appreciation of $64,000. But that isn't it, right? The other aspect of this is you would be paying that mortgage, right? So we come down here, we have the principal and interest on this calculator here. So let's say we did put 5% down, right? About half of this is so principal and interest, so loan and interest only is $1,200. So we would be paying down principal every single month, meaning that our loan balance would be going down. We'd be putting money in the piggy bank is how I expect that, right? So one is equity appreciation. This is the way people make money on real estate, is equity appreciation, number one. Number two, which we just talked about, that $65,000, that's very real. It's also very conservative. Number two is principal pay down. So let's say a quarter of that payment every single month is going to go towards your principal pay down. So 12889 times 0.25, right? So about $300 or $400 a month is going towards your principal, which, by the way, was about the same as your private mortgage insurance. So if you do that times the 60 months, we're talking about $19,000 that goes in your piggy bank because you're paying down your loan balance. Now, if you can afford to buy a property in Orange County, you probably need a tax write-off. Now, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. You should talk to somebody that knows taxes better than I do, but you're probably going to get some tax write-offs from buying a home. From talking to a lot of people that are in this price point, from personally doing it in this price point, you could save maybe $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000-ish in taxes from owning a property like this. And even if it was on the low side, if it was at $5,000 tax savings in the year, divide that by 12 months, we're talking $416 a month in average, right? So that $300 in private mortgage insurance that holds so many people back from purchasing because they don't want to pay or throw away money, they're losing out on all of these different things. Not to mention forced appreciation, right? Which is another one. So if we're listing these out, you have your actual equity, meaning the price in the home goes up, meaning value increases. Number two is you have principal pay down. So you're putting money in your piggy bank, which is increasing your equity. So the price goes up while you're paying the principal down. That's a huge bonus. Third thing is tax incentives. So you're likely, again, talk to a CPA, you're able to save money on your tax bill so that you can basically use that money for whatever, which should go back into your affordability for the home. The fourth thing, which is really special, is forced appreciation. So let's say you put 25% down, you put down 5% of $20,000 down. Well, let's say you took that other 5%, right? Another $20,000 you had set aside, and maybe you replace the flooring. Maybe you replace some of the kitchen, right? Or the bathrooms, and you increase the value of the home. So maybe you bought it for $400,000. If you put 20 into it, maybe it's worth $450. That's $30,000 additional dollars of value right there. So instead of putting the down payment there and just putting it in the piggy bank, you might have increased your value again, right? And then, as we said, let's pull this calculator back up. Remember the numbers when we started at 400,000? Well, what if we started at 450? You put that other $20,000 into improving the home, and then it increases by 1.03% every single year. So that's a 3% increase. So now you're at 463 on year 2, and then you do another 1.03% increase, right? And so on and so on and so on. So this, I'm just using this one particular property as an example, but that hesitation to throw away money on mortgage insurance or even on an HOA. Some people are like, I'm not going to pay $600 a month on an HOA. I'm going to wait till I can afford a single family residence. Well, how long is it going to take you to go from where you're at now? Maybe you can't afford this house right now, waiting to be able to afford a single family. Maybe it's the $800,000. How much longer is it going to take you to save up that money, right? That's the big question that we see so many people in this price point totally miss out on. So instead of saving for 5 more years to save up that down payment, if you get into this house and you take advantage of all 4 things, you take advantage of the price appreciation naturally, the 3% every year. That was $63,000 on this property. The second thing is you're going to be paying your mortgage, so your principal on the loan, your loan balance will be decreasing over time. That's going to increase your equity right there. The third thing is your tax benefits. If not a CPA, but you probably will get tax benefits. If you purchase a home, talk to a CPA, you'll probably save money. And the fourth thing is forced appreciation. So that even in this house, if you put new carpet in and did some upgrades, you could force the appreciation. So that 5 years from now, instead of saying, I finally saved up enough money to buy my first house, you might be saying, shoot, I have built up $100,000 in equity on this house, and I saved up more money. And then you can sell this house to unlock that $100,000 in equity, and then take that $100,000 and roll it into the next property, where now maybe you're putting 15% down on $800,000 or $900,000. You do that for another 5 years, do all the same things we just talked about, and maybe you're selling that and buying for 1.2, 1.5. And this is something we see all the time. We have been helping people since 2020 in Orange County buy, sell real estate. And we right now are helping people sell their house that they were first-time home buyers. They bought with us in 2020, which was a fantastic time to buy. And they're selling their home now for a significant increase in price because values have gone up. Values have gone up way more than normal, but even if they went up normal, right? Let's pretend like we helped this person buy in 2020, right? They would have bought it for $399,000, $400,000. And 5 years later, it would have been worth almost $464,000. And they would have had all of the other benefits as well too. So they probably would be unlocking about $80,000 in equity from their original 5% $20,000 down payment, right? So that $20,000 would turn into about $80,000. Now, are there costs of selling? Of course, but they would be selling that, taking $80,000 or $60,000 that they took out. So they 3x their cash in 5 years, and then they would roll that into the next property. And we have clients doing this all the time. And the reality is, in Orange County, prices generally increase more than 3% on an average year. It's actually 5%. And more recently, it's been a heck of a lot more than that. So if you're able to get into a property, you're not buying your forever house, you're buying a house that is going to start to build your equity. That's the biggest lesson that I can give you. The second biggest piece of advice is to talk with a professional. You would not believe how many people talk to us and realize, gosh, Christian, I did not realize this. If I would have just talked to somebody earlier, I probably would have bought a couple years earlier. It would have saved money. Or at least you could talk to somebody and you can realize it doesn't make sense to buy, because it doesn't for everybody. It certainly doesn't. So if you want help with your home search, you want to narrow this down and talk to an absolute professional, make sure you go to our link in the description below. Go to allaboutoc.com, book a discovery call with one of our agents. We'd be happy to talk you through it. And whether you work with us or not, hopefully we can save you a little bit of money or make your life a little bit easier. Again, my name is Christian. I hope you found this valuable. And in this next video, I'm going to go over the most affordable cities in all of Orange County. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in this next one.